It's Tuesday, July 12th, and this is now on HNN. We're learning more about how the Supreme Court's ruling to expand gun rights will impact access to firearms here in Hawaii.
The House committee investigating the attack on the U.S. Capitol continues its public hearings. I'm Skyler Henry on Capitol Hill as the group focuses on the mobilization of the mob and who worked with them.
Thousands of people lined the streets to say farewell to Japan's longest-serving Prime Minister, Shinzo Abe. How these stunning images from the Webb telescope will help scientists solve some of space's biggest mysteries.
Lots of good stuff. I just don't know where to start. I'm a kid in the candy shop. This is really good.
These stories plus Amazon Prime Day is underway. A look at the deals up for grabs coming up on This Is Now.
Aloha, everybody. Thank you for watching This Is Now. You have Casey and Ashley here, and we have a lot of fun stuff, actually, cool stuff to talk about today, but some important news to get to today. The 7th historical January 6th committee hearing was held in Washington, D.C., and learned a lot of new information.
That's right. Lawmakers examined whether former President Donald Trump helped mobilize extremist groups like the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers that day. Skyler Henry has more from Capitol Hill.
The Electoral College has spoken.
In the final weeks leading up to January 6th, members of then-President Trump's inner circle testified they urged him to admit the presidential election was over.
If your question is, did I believe he should concede the election at a point in time, yes, I did.
The committee heard from former White House counsel Pat Cipollone for the first time in clips from his private deposition last week. Cipollone detailed a contentious meeting in the Oval Office focusing on seizing voting machines in battleground states.
The idea that the federal government could come in and seize election machines, it's a terrible idea.
In a tweet on December 19th, committee members say a defiant Trump then summoned supporters to come to Washington, saying in part, "Be there will be wild."
Trump's purpose was to mobilize a crowd. And how do you mobilize a crowd in 2020? With millions of followers on Twitter.
House committee members say President Trump lit the flame, igniting the January 6th riot, galvanizing radical groups who showed up that day with body armor, bear spray, and even bats.
Donald Trump is calling on his supporters to descend on Washington, D.C.
He is now calling on we the people to take action.
Former Oath Keepers spokesperson Jason Van Tatenhove addressed the committee.
This could have been the spark that started a new civil war, and no one would have won there.
As did a rioter, Stephen Ayers, who pleaded guilty to illegally entering the Capitol.
The president, got everybody riled up, told everybody to head on down. So we basically were just following what he said.
Court documents show Ayers suggested civil war will ensue if former President Trump didn't remain in the White House. Skyler Henry, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
It's been 2 weeks since the Supreme Court expanded gun rights in America, and today we're getting a better idea of how this will impact Hawaii, which has some of the toughest gun laws in the nation. Last month, the court struck down a New York law that put strict limits on carrying guns outside of the home, saying that Americans have a right to arm themselves in public. That ruling is now affecting Hawaii and several other states that had laws similar to New York's. Here in Hawaii, gun carry permits are rarely issued by the police chiefs, who rely on legal guidance from the state attorney general. And now AG Holly Shikata has sent out updated guidelines that say police chiefs should not restrict concealed or open carry licenses, only to those who can show that their lives are in danger. But at the same time, Shikata makes it clear that permits will not be issued to just anyone who asks. For example, police chiefs may decide against issuing a license to someone considered dangerous to the public. Shikata also adds that when it comes to an open carry application, police chiefs can enforce additional requirements, so they're tougher to get. Since the Supreme Court ruling, there has been a spike in gun carry applications. Last week, Honolulu Police Chief Joe Logan said they received nearly 50 applications compared to 3 before the ruling. Logan said those applications were on hold until they got guidance from the AG's office. We reached out to HPD and other police departments on whether any new permits have been issued in recent days. We're also asking them and the governor on how they feel about the new guidance.
Meantime, Hawaii is joining a group of nearly 24 states calling for a crackdown on ghost guns. They say it's important to uphold a new federal rule that would soon require a background check before buying gun part kits. According to the Justice Department, nearly 20,000 suspected ghost guns were recovered last year.
Both houses of Congress are addressing the issue of abortion today in the wake of the Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe v. Wade. Serena Marshall has the latest from the White House.
For the first time since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, the Senate is back and hearing from those impacted by the decision.
We are already seeing mass chaos,
including Planned Parenthood doctor Colleen McNicholas, who told lawmakers she's already seen the harm.
Lupus, arthritis, cancer, medications that we use frequently to control those conditions are being denied to patients because they might also contribute to miscarriage or can be used for abortion and other indications.
Witnesses on both sides of the issue testified before the Senate Judiciary Committee about the ramifications of the Dobbs decision.
For the first time in half a century, the people, through our elected representatives, have the legal authority to affirm the dignity of women and fully protect unborn babies.
Already, abortion is banned in 10 states. Illinois' lieutenant governor testified about the impact of neighboring states restricting access.
The number of out-of-state patients has doubled since Roe v. Wade was overturned.
The hearing comes just days after President Biden signed an executive order aimed at protecting reproductive health services, while admitting there are limits to what he can do without Congress. On Tuesday, a House Rules Committee took up the Women's Health Protection Act, which would codify the right to an abortion. A second bill would ban states from interfering with someone's right to travel to another state to get the procedure.
These bills make clear that we are going to fight tooth and nail.
Neither bill, however, is likely to clear the Senate and make it to the president's desk. Serena Marshall, CBS News, the White House.
In Tokyo today, thousands of people lined the streets to say farewell to Japan's longest-serving prime minister, Shinzo Abe. He was assassinated on Friday while giving a campaign speech for another candidate. Elizabeth Palmer reports from Tokyo.
The hearse carrying Shinzo Abe's remains took him one last time past the parliament he'd served as a lawmaker. And then his old headquarters, the Prime Minister's residence, where colleagues, including Japan's current Prime Minister Fumio Kishida, waited to say a last goodbye. Earlier, Japan's political elite, family members, and close friends had gathered for a Buddhist service. The funeral held at Tokyo's Zozoji Temple was a private affair, but that did not stop thousands of people from coming down to get as close as they could to pay their respects. Patiently, they waited to pray and pay tribute to their country's longest-serving prime minister. Keiko had come with her daughter, Ryoka.
He did a lot of things for Japanese people.
Did you want your daughter to be with you because this is an historic moment?
Yes.
A proud nationalist and conservative with a playful side, Shinzo Abe was confident on the world stage and a political giant at home. Japan is still reeling from his loss. Elizabeth Palmer, CBS News.
3 former Big Island correctional officers are found guilty of brutally beating an inmate and then trying to cover it up. A warning that some of the details and images you might see in this story could be graphic to some viewers. Our chief investigative reporter, Lynn Kawano, has more from the federal courthouse.
It took the jury less than 3 hours to find the 3 former prison guards guilty.
The 2015 beating inside the Hawaii Community Correctional Center was caught on video. Adult corrections officers can be seen hitting and kicking inmate Sean Ka'ili 45 times over 2 minutes. Ka'ili ended up with a broken nose, jaw, and eye socket. All 4 ACOs were fired, and late Friday afternoon, a federal jury found 3 of them, Jason Tangaloa, Craig Pickney and Jonathan Tom guilty of violating Ka'ili's civil rights and then obstructing justice by attempting to cover up the crime. The fourth officer, Jordan DeMatos, took a plea deal and testified against the others. Evidence from the trial also revealed that the officers wrote false reports about the incident and worked together to make excuses for using such force. Tom was a supervisor at the time and told Hawaii News Now after he was fired that they were not properly trained to deal with inmates under the influence of spice and meth.
The last time I had the physical force training was in 1998 in my BCT class when I first started. I've never dealt with someone who was high on spice. That's the first time ever I've seen how they're stronger.
Tom and the others who chose to go to trial were taken into custody right after the verdict was read. In a statement, Department of Public Safety Director Max Otani said justice has been served as those involved were held accountable. The department will not tolerate this type of behavior from any employee.
This case is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of the violence that persists in our jails and prisons.
The ACLU Hawaii says this is the exception because many attacks in corrections facilities go unreported.
Happen more often than we know. And again, because people are afraid, because people fear retaliation, preventing them from moving on to the next step, parole, probation, etc., people just don't always come forward.
The ACOs could face decades in prison as the offense of filing a false report carries up to a 20-year sentence. Sentencing has not yet been scheduled. I'm Lynn Kawano, Hawaii News Now.
Elections officials say they're ready for the upcoming primaries next month. KC was at election headquarters earlier today and filed this report.
Aloha from a really important space here in the state's elections office. These are actually all of the counted ballots from the 2020 election. They're all sealed with a unique number wire seal here. Packaged away. The state's elections office has to keep those for 22 months. I want to also talk to Scott Nago, the chief elections officer with the state of Hawaii. Scott, I want to talk a little bit about the process. So again, folks can expect to see their ballots in the mail sometime around the 26th. The primary election, of course, August 13th. Tell us a little bit about what happens when they drop those in the mail.
So it's important that before returning your ballot in the mail, you should sign your return envelope. Any ballot without, any envelope without a signature on it will not be counted because that's how we verify your identity or you confirm your identity with the signature. It has to match. If you're going to mail it's important that ballots be received by 7 p.m. on election day, not postmarked. So if you still have your ballot closer to election day, it's important that you take it to a place of deposit. You can find the list of those because ours do vary in locations at our website, elections.hawaii.gov.
Very good. And then the ballot itself, once it's received by your office, tell us what happens. I mean, that's when the real work happens for you guys, although there's been a lot of work behind any election leading up to it. But what happens when those ballots come in?
So first thing they're going to do is mark the voter as voted so that they can't send in another ballot. Then they're going to check the signature. The signatures need to match in order for it to move on to the next step in the process. Once that's done, it'll be prepared for counting. So it'll be opened in a two-step process. The first step, it'll be still in your secrecy sleeve, so that maintains the secret of your vote. And then we'll open up remove the ballot from the secrecy sleeve and then get it ready for processing.
Last question, and it's an easy one, I'm sure, for you, one that you've been asked several times. This is every election is a hugely important one, but we have the governor, lieutenant governor, several mayors. What can you say to folks to make sure that they participate?
So, voting is the cornerstone of democracy. Without participation, we don't have a healthy democracy.
Very good. Scott Nago with us, Chief Elections Officer for the state of Hawaii. Again, if you missed any of that information, you want to know where you can drop your ballot if you don't get it into the mail in time or you need assistance, there's opportunities for that. Just go to elections.hawaii.gov. Reporting in Pearl City, I'm Casey Lund. For now, we'll send things back to you.
COVID rates are surging all across the country, and as Gus Rosendale tells us, this new strain, BA.5, is tricky because it can avoid testing and can easily reinfect people.
I'm not feeling so great.
Brigitte, who is vaccinated and had COVID before, now among those concerned about BA.5 after waking up with a scratchy throat.
How are you feeling right now?
I just have a sore throat. I think it's just a cold, but I just want to make sure that it's not COVID.
But testing is tough for BA.5, the new dominant strain of COVID in the U.S. About 100,000 cases reported every day in recent weeks. It is easily transmissible and good at avoiding detection.
People are not testing, and even people with symptoms that test may test negative on the first test. So they should retest.
Current hospitalization numbers in New York City compare to the end of this winter's Omicron surge, though serious illness and deaths remain relatively low. This at the same time as city health officials are pushing for more kids who qualify to get the vaccine and are advising people to wear masks indoors if they can't socially distance.
It is not more severe than previous variants, but it is so much more transmissible and reinfects. It's very good at reinfecting.
I had a potential exposure last weekend.
And so Sebastian Reyes now needs a negative test to get back to his summer internship. And he has a pick of tents at Columbus Circle where lines for food are longer than one for a test. That's a far cry from the pandemic peak, but the new strain means a continued push for testing and vigilance.
I wasn't able to come into work like this whole past week, like last week, and to come back, I just have to get a PCR result that says it's negative.
Wildland firefighters are working hard to protect a famous grove of sequoia trees at Yosemite National Park. The wildfire is spread to over 2,000 acres, fueled by timber and brush. Hundreds of those giant sequoia trees are in harm's way, including some that are centuries old. Firefighters are expected to face difficult weather this week with warmer and drier conditions approaching, meaning the flames could spread even quicker. Well over 500 firefighters are battling that fire in a coordinated land and air attack. Some are scraping the ground to cover bare soil in order to prevent flames from spreading. Others installed portable sprinkler systems to spray the trees and increase humidity. They've also removed logs, dead trees, branches, and undergrowth near the famed trees. Nearly 2 weeks into this year's RIMPAC exercise, new video shows U.S. forces working with allies on their diving skills. Other teams are doing weapons trainings and aircraft loading and offloading. One admiral said this will give the U.S. military the skills to confront China if necessary, but the main goal is building partnerships.
It is an incredible opportunity to ensure that we know how to communicate, that we're speaking the same language. By that I mean, how we operate between aircraft and ships, how the ships integrate with each other, and just making sure that when we need to rely on these skills that we're going to hone over these next couple of weeks on follow-on deployments, that we have that.
26 nations are participating in the biennial exercise, which runs through August 4th. And beautiful conditions out there.
Yeah.
Hey, putting it in my hood over there. And a little bit of surf, but let's see if it's going to be anything good news in the way of our surfers. Let's check in with Billy V.
Happy Aloha Tuesday. The surfers are happy. We got waves over on the west side, 4 to 6, 5 to 7 over on the south-facing shores. And just know we've got higher than normal swings in the tide, so 2.66 once we get to 4 o'clock this afternoon. Taking a look at your forecast for today, daytime high is going to be near 87 degrees. Today is going to be probably the nicest day of the week. After this, we've got rain and clouds, so just enjoy while you can. The winds will get up to 15 to 25 miles per hour today.
The new images coming from NASA's Webb telescope are stunning, to say the least, completely out of this world. Now, they're giving us our first glimpse of galaxies deep in the universe to help scientists unravel some of space's biggest mysteries. Danya Bacchus has more.
NASA's James Webb Space Telescope is returning its first color images from the outer reaches of the universe, more than 13 billion light years away.
Lots of good stuff. I just don't know where to start. I'm a kid in the candy shop. This is really good.
The photos include Stephan's quintet, part of the constellation Pegasus, revealing 5 galaxies in a cosmic dance 290 million light years away.
This is a view we've never ever had before. Previous observatories have hinted at these things, but we've never seen it in the kind of detail that Webb showed us today.
Another photo reveals WASP 96b, a gas planet about the size of Saturn and the first ever spectrum of an exoplanet, showing the distinct signature of water.
I've already been getting text messages of people trying to look for certain molecules and break down that spectrum. It was very exciting to see so much data in there already.
Seems like right now you're kind of on a high from all.
Oh, absolutely.
This stunning image is of Carina Nebula, where stars are born, about 7,600 light years away in our own Milky Way galaxy.
We see examples of bubbles and cavities and jets that are being blown out by these newborn stars.
At the other end of the spectrum, this photo captures the Southern Ring Nebula, an expanding cloud of gas surrounding a dying star about 2,500 light years away. President Biden unveiled the first image Monday, a jumble of distant galaxies, deeper into the cosmos than humanity has ever seen. One image at a time, scientists say the web will help researchers put the puzzle pieces together in the outermost boundaries of space to reveal some of man's biggest mysteries, millions of light years and trillions of miles away. Danya Backus, CBS News.
Oh, so cool. Could talk about that forever, Ash. But we have important news to get to, and that's the Emmy nominations. That's right. HBO's Succession leads the pack this year. 25 Emmy nods, including Outstanding Drama Series. Such a good show. Next, Netflix wildly popular Squid Game, the first non-English language series to compete for TV's top honor. 14 nominations for Squid Game. And then Ozark, the best drama contender, releasing its final episode in April. Lead actors Jason Bateman, Laura Linney, both up for trophies as well. And then Zendaya received another lead actress nomination for Euphoria today. She made history as the youngest producing Emmy nominee for the series. And then Ted Lasso was back to defend its best comedy title, scoring a total of 20 nominations. Powerhouse. The Emmys broadcast on September 12th. Right here on KHNL. Okay, Ash, what have you seen and not seen?
I've seen season 1 of Ozark. I've seen Euphoria. I know you've been telling me about Succession for such a long time. And it's high on my list. It really is.
Yeah, Succession's awesome. I absolutely love that show, and I burned through it very quickly. You will, too. What else we got?
So Amazon Prime Day is underway. Tracy Strahan spent a time at a warehouse and spoke with officials on what to expect. Let's check it out in today's Good News Now. Okay, Casey loaded the wrong thing. So
yes, I did.
Okay.
You got to see the panic in my eye. Sorry, Ash.
I was like, what are you trying to say? Yeah, so you guys check out Amazon Prime Day. They have all these great things. Have you been on yet, Keith?
I have. I checked out a few things, Ash. Sorry about that, everybody. That's my bad. But you know what? One part of this story that's interesting is that this is probably going to be one of the worst Amazon Prime Days in history, right? Just because of inflation and people's finances right now. That's what I was reading is it may not be the Amazon Prime Day that they were certainly hoping for because so many people are kind of struggling financially and things cost so much. There's supply chain issues, so there's a lot that might make this Amazon Prime Day a little tougher. We couldn't even get the right video. That's how bad the supply chain issues are, Ash. We're having fun, though. And so other good news now, too, in my world at least, because I'm a huge fan, and that is the Costco hot dog. There was a story out recently that there were going to be some price raises at the Costco food court amid inflation. Not so much for the $1.50 hot dog, the $1.50 beloved hot dog that is so popular. The club CEO told CNBC that a price hike was not on the way for that popular food court item. It's been that price for decades now. Membership fees are also expected to remain at current prices. Good news there for so many families because you really can save a bundle at Costco. There have been some other price hikes at the food court, but you can still get, you can still get the large pizza, I think, for $9.99.
Right. I think the price hikes were the chicken bake. I think it's like $1 more now and like one of the soft drink sizes. So,
yeah.
But I think there would be mass.
Oh yeah,
like,
when you know your significant other, dear friend of mine, whenever we go to the beach back in the day, that's what we'd get for lunch. We get 2 Costco hot dogs at $3, $3 and a soda. You can't beat it, folks. And this is not an ad for Costco, by the way. Thanks so much for being with us today on This Is Now. And Ash, you guys got a lot you're covering for First at 4.
That's right. Tune in on First at 4. We got all the headlines that what's going to happen throughout the day. We got